All right. Welcome to another episode. Grind my gears. I got a fucking great guy here today. A good friend from back in the day, doing big things. Kyle Prepolec, Kill Shot Prepolec. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Long time no see, and
Long,
I'm
long,
doing well. Looking
yeah.
good.
Thanks, brother. You too. You too. I mean, we haven't seen each other since. Well, I saw you at that fight you had in Burlington, but obviously you had the fight, so you weren't paying much fucking attention. I've been in the same position too. So like after a fight, you don't
Yeah,
you don't remember.
all business.
Yeah, it's all
all
business.
business.
But I mean, we haven't seen each other in a while. How have things been since? I mean, the last 2 years, based. I mean, everything has been based around this bullshit pandemic and all the stuff going on. So how has that been for you, personally, on a personal level, non-fighting wise?
Um, I think it's just everybody's had enough of it.
Yeah.
We just want to, we just want to be normal again. You know,
Yeah,
we just want to be able to do the things that we were able to
yeah,
before, have fun and you know, relax, chill, and if you want to go out and have some excitement, you go out and do it. Now it's like everyone's got to walk on eggshells, and it's like who's going to get mad at who for saying what now on social media. It
yeah,
doesn't matter what side you're on. There's always someone who's trying to fight you for no reason. It's like, man, we're all want the same thing. It's just we all just gotta chill a little bit.
yeah. I hear you. I feel the same way. It's almost it's and especially as an athlete too. It's almost mentally exhausting to try and balance training, putting your athletic career first, and then all the social issues that go on beside it. Because I think one of the things a lot of people don't well recognize or know that while the government put exemptions for athletes, it didn't necessarily apply to mixed martial artists, right?
From what I was told, like at first it was because
Yeah,
it's like, well, what do they consider an elite athlete? It's like, well, once you're a professional mixed martial artist and you get paid to play, basically,
yeah,
that's pretty elite. Like you may not be UFC or Bellator, but it's like, how do you know that next fight doesn't get you there?
yeah, exactly.
So it's how can you tell and dictate, like even for upcoming boxers or who are trying to be Olympians? You know what I mean? Like it's such a gray area. It's like, man,
Well, I
oh,
mean, I can't say the guy's name because it wouldn't be fair to him to say it. But there was a Olympic wrestler that trains in Toronto here, who got fined for training in the gym before the Olympics last year. Like, put that in perspective. Like, you know what I mean? Canada always like when Olympics come around, they're always like, oh yeah, athletes, athletes, athletes. Say you have an athlete who's going out there to represent your country getting a ticket for training. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
How do you, especially like an elite guy who's representing the country in the probably the most viewed sporting event in the Olympics because it's a worldwide event
yeah,
for this specific time, and then you're gonna go find that guy.
yeah.
Um, that doesn't sit well with me, and
No,
I'm sure it doesn't with a lot of people.
it doesn't sit well with a lot of people. But I mean, I think it was safe to say that for most mixed martial artists, professional, amateur, everyone was having to find alternative methods of, well, for lack of better, illegally training, right? So I mean, how I know you just finished your last fight not too long ago, late last year. Congratulations, by the way. Um, how was the preparation for that? I know we were kind of out of lockdowns at that kind of time, but I know you had some injury issues previously getting back into there. So how was it like managing with the lockdowns and getting yourself back to the forums to be able to fight and win?
Um, as long as you have the will, the drive, and everything up here and in your heart, you can do anything, man. As long as you believe and you got your good support, you can accomplish anything, even if you don't have the support. As long as you believe, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But yeah, like literally after like the UFC, when we discovered after my muscle biopsy why the rhabdo was happening.
Yeah.
It was due to like a genetic, I guess, disorder and deficiency. But over that time, we did, a mock cut, obviously everything in secret. I had to cut outside in a sauna suit, went on a hot summer day
Yeah.
just to do lock cut just to see and put myself in that stress to see if it would happen again. And then, try to really exhaust the legs and see if it'll happen again. And it didn't. And then in the last fight, no symptoms, no nothing. Everything was like mint. Everything was perfect. Obviously there's some things like in the fight, like that I could have done better. I did obviously want to finish. Everybody does.
Everybody wants that, but it's not. It's every like I don't think there's a fighter that goes into the cage thinking, "Oh, I just want a decision, and I'll be happy if I walk out with a decision." And and I don't think
Yeah,
anybody goes in.
we're
Yeah,
gonna beat each other up, but yeah, we're going all 25 minutes. It's like
yeah,
we always train for it. You always train for the worst, and expect the best. So,
yeah,
but yeah, like I said, no symptoms, any of that stuff. And then when they finally let restrictions go, gyms were back to being open, and things didn't
yeah,
have to be. Or you'd have to go to people's houses or in their garage, or go into parks and do pad work, or go to wherever.
yeah,
Like, and yeah, it's just. And then once lockdowns, restrictions or whatever
yeah.
went down to like 50% or whatever, and everything is able to be semi-normal, then I was like, all right, let's just double down, because you don't know when it's going to happen again. Like, look where
Yeah,
we're at.
no, look where we just came out of another one. We'll talk about that in a second. But I wanted to get back. I remember back in the day when you were fighting on Score Fighting Series early on in your pro career, you did have some calf issues.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as predominant as I believe it developed in the past couple years. Um, Now you had that issue going into the UFC, right? That was affecting you during those fights.
Not the 170 fight, just because I was walking around like 170, 174. So when
Yeah,
I found, like, just walking in there perfectly healthy, nothing like.
no
But when
cut. Yeah,
when I cut to 55 against Austin, um, I had my diet and everything like perfect, immaculate. But what I didn't know is I was doing damage to my body by keeping my body that low and
oh,
staying
okay.
on it. So then when I had to cut the 5 to 8 pounds, I rehydrate, and my body's like, well, now we got to heal and recover, because the damage that was already done, now we're going to make up for the lost time. And that's why
Yeah,
my leg cut off and go into rhabdo mode. And, and then I'd have to go to the hospital. They could put me on IV. I'd have to keep drinking water, Gatorade, and stay hydrated, just to protect like my organs, my kidneys, just to get the toxins out of my body. Like,
yeah.
it sucked.
And I mean, for someone who hasn't competed before, to put it in perspective, going into a professional mixed martial arts fight, especially in at the UFC level, like yourself, without your fucking leg working, is a big fucking big friggin' deal. Like like going into the fight in the back of your head, I'm sure that there was like little nagging things. I'm sure like everybody has injuries going into a fight. I don't think there's one guy people be lying to tell you if they, oh yeah, I went in perfect. But I mean, going in with something like that, did it affect you like prior to the fight, or did like once things got going and the rounds started going, then you're like, oh fuck, something's wrong?
So like anytime I would notice, like when I first noticed it, like even for my first fight, when I fought, when I first went down to 145,
Yeah.
when I tried it, I felt it in the dressing room, and I'm like, Reno and and James, I'm like, yo, man, like something's wrong with my legs. I'm like, it feels like I'm getting like it feels like it's ballooning and tightening, and I'm like, I can't move. I have no spring. I have no bounce anymore.
Yeah.
And I go in the fight, and I'm like, okay, I know adrenaline's there. Okay, we're okay. We can move, but my speed is now down. My footwork is just terrible. Like, I
Yeah.
can't move or do anything. I'm just like, man, I just got to swing and hope for the best and just try to catch this guy.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the fight was done, judge lifts Mustafa's arm, and I'm like, hey, like, he got the takedown. He finished. It was like 28-27 or something like that. I don't remember, but he won. That's all
Yeah.
that mattered. And as soon as I got down from the cage, I literally just collapsed. Like, my legs just went forward, and I was like, I can't move. Like, I'm stuck. And
Yeah.
like my like footballs, man, like footballs. So
Fuck.
then so then there's been a couple other fights that haven't been as bad, but then on the Austin Hubbard one, same thing. Uh, the doctors there in the UFC, they grabbed like a bunch of ice packs, started taping it, because they're like, okay,
dude.
like your calves are, you know, decent size, but they shouldn't look like an NFL football here.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like Hartman syndrome, and I'm like, oh, maybe that could be a thing, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm in rhabdo just because like I've been studying it for a bit now, like, and I'm going to doctors. I check my blood work, and they're like, yeah, your CK levels are like elevated, like they're over like 9,000, 12,000, and it just kept rising and rising. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, oh, like that's not good. Like, so,
Yeah.
like,
I'm not a doctor, but that doesn't fucking look good when the number keeps going up, guys. Yeah.
yeah, and they're like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you're just sitting there, and your number keeps going up every time we test you, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't
Uh,
like. I'm
well,
just sitting. I'm just trying to live, you know.
yeah. So I mean, obviously the pandemic hit after the UFC stint, and then I'm I'm gonna assume that you use that time to kind of heal up and put your body back where it needed to be, right? Or is that what the plan was when all the kind of the bullshit kind of started, or was it just kind of
um,
forced for you?
Honestly, it was kind of like it's like a blessing and a curse, like kind of like this stuff happening because it did let us slow down and just to see, okay, let's work day by day and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Let's narrow everything down from a diet. So now my diet's like when I have to cut weight for like fight camp, it's high carbs, high protein, no fats,
Yeah.
because I break down the fats and it just goes, see you later. Um, and my body just doesn't use any of the nutrients from it, so I have to supplement like L-carnitine. I take like multivitamins and all that other stuff, but a lot
Yeah.
of high protein, high carbs. Doing the mock cut helped, I should say, and doing like the camp, whether it was in people's garages or secret facilities that were.
Secret facility. Look at us, fucking professional fighters thought it was secret facilities. Like it's insane that we have to even say that, right? But
Yeah, and it's like it was tough too because like I'm still working on my visa and all that stuff, and with the visa, it would be easier for me to cross. It'd be like, oh yeah, you know, you're a professional athlete, you have your visa, here's your thing. See you
yeah.
later. Now it's like you gotta cross, and then I think get a PCR test,
Well,
and
I know one of your teammates, fellow UFC fighter TJ. He had a lot of issues at the border preparing for his fight as well, right?
yeah, yeah,
And I mean, like to put it in perspective, like when you're preparing for a mixed martial arts fight, there's so many mental shit that goes on besides the actual fight. Like
yeah. Like you're
it's-
already stressed out
you're
enough.
already exactly you're already
Yeah,
stressed out enough because you've been given a date. There's another fucking animal at the other side of the world. Sometimes training to beat your face in, so you're obsessed with this preparation. And to top it off, like like TJ pops over the border to fucking train, comes back, and now he has to deal with fines and fucking bullshit. Like, I mean, the test is fine. I get it, but like there's got to be some sort, like, if you want athletes to represent the country and be proud to represent the country and take our flag and say amazing things, well, then the treatment's got to be there as well. And I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like for the sport of mixed martial arts, it's not there yet. The respect for the athletes is not there yet, especially on the government side. I feel like it's just not something that they want to jump on board with, which is pretty a shame. It's a shameful, to be honest with you.
yeah. I think like we are a little behind. Like, remember how long it took for what was it, Ontario, to finally legalize
Yeah,
MMA in Ontario, and then it was like this huge big thing. And it's yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. Like they still kind of look at mixed martial artists as like brutes or like just savage beasts or like pit
yeah,
fighters, just locked up street fighters or bar brawlers or
yeah.
where it's like you get a boxer, they're treated, they're very like almost same ground but a little better.
It's different because I mean my gym that I train at now at Grant's MMA has a lot of professional boxers, a lot of high level professional boxers, and I'm not saying they get preferential treatment, but I see exactly what you're saying where it's not viewed the same because it's been technically legal for you know decades before MMA even got sanctioned in Ontario. So there's a more
Yeah,
of a an understanding, put it that way.
yeah, where boxing is like it's been there, it has its history moments where MMA is still so new and still uh I guess fresh.
Yeah.
it's only, I guess, well, if we go by what the UFC is, what is it, like 28 years old now or
Yeah,
something like
around that. But I mean, legal in Ontario, I
it's like
believe.
2012.
Yeah, so like we're still like we're as old as the iPhone, basically. You
Yeah,
know what I
pretty
mean?
much.
So that's like that's the degree of it. So I mean, it's a shame that it's come to that. But getting back to what we were talking about before, but like p- I guess the pandemic had a good was in a good way a blessing because you're able to fix some of those issues, right?
Yeah, there wasn't as much of a rush where it's like we can narrow things down, study things, and my girlfriend and well, I guess fiance now because we're engaged.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations!
because she's a nurse, and
Yeah.
her and her family, and other people at the hospital that she works with, investigated as well and helped us out big time. And like even like some of the neurologists here and other doctors and uh, were like, because rhabdo's kind of rare, like for especially young athletes, and but
Yeah.
now it's becoming more common with like marathon runners, CrossFitters, some MMA fighters. But it's during
I wouldn't be surprised if I developed some form of it too because I had just had the Achilles done back in 2020. So I've had some we were planning to get back in there last year, but I was having issues with the calf too. So I mean I wouldn't be surprised if it I developed some sort of issues similar to it along the
yeah,
road. Yeah.
yeah, you got to like slowly like work your way back. Because anytime it happened to me, it was like you went from being a peak performance elite athlete, and then you just went back to like -10
Yeah.
on the scale. And then it's like, okay, baby step. Okay, now we can walk. Okay, we can speed walk. Okay, we can jog a little bit. Okay, we can shadow box.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can do some bag work, do some weights. Like you gotta just, like what I've learned is take it slow and just don't redline yourself.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the pandemic helped on that part and that aspect. Like the first lockdown, not the second
Not the
one.
subsequent 70 after.
Yeah, it was the first one where we're like, holy smokes, like this is serious. Like we live in an era where like a crazy pandemic happened, and now it's like, okay, what's really going on? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I'm not saying it's fake because
No, no.
obviously people who get it and
Well,
you
I
know
mean, I've had it. There's no, I'm never, there's nothing fake about it. It's just, I mean, we're not going to get into that's a whole fucking other 7 hour discussion
different.
of that's a different animal, the politics of the pandemic. But I don't think anyone ever, well, any rational human being ever thought it was not a real disease. Like I've had it. It punched me in the fucking gut. I've had it. It took me out for a couple of days, but I think we're more along the lines of the measures, especially for athletes and gyms in specific. Now I know like Reno has an amazing facility out in Windsor, and you know I like to ask everybody about the effects it has on gyms and business owners like Reno because I don't think it's been talked about enough, and I don't think it's been. I think it's been shoved aside the negative repercussions that this has had, not just on athletes, but on people who are putting all that finance, all that effort, all that work, everything that he's built out there, and then 2 years, it's gotta have had a big effect, especially for a town like Windsor where there's not many places, right?
Yeah, we have one, two, three, four, maybe four at most.
There you go.
But it's like, man, these business owners, like if they weren't doing other things or working another job, they would have been killed. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like it's a good thing Reno is smart with his money, and like he took a big hit too with his own personal finance, where it's like the gym's supposed to grow, build, have this family, like how it always is, and then
yeah.
create these bonds with all these magnificent people, and then all of a sudden everything gets shut down, and it's like, okay, yeah, there was CERB and you get these grants, but it doesn't last long when you have all this overhead and all these bills and all these taxes you have to pay
Yeah.
on all that with that anyway.
Well, I think what gets lost in that message too is that, yeah, there's subsidies, but people quit, right? People have like other people have their own personal finance issues going on outside of the gym. Like the members have, some people might have lost their jobs, some people might have reduction in hours, so they didn't get the same amount of pay, et cetera, et cetera. So they have to cut back in certain areas. And I know there was tons of people, and shout out to everybody who continued their memberships and continue supporting gyms while they were shut down. But not a lot of people were in those financial positions. And so, like, you can get a subsidy to keep your gym open and not close down. But then when it is open, you've now lost 3, 4, 5, 10, maybe even more members that you have to get back. Right. And then that's revenue gone because there's no subsidy when it's open.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now it's okay. Now I have to rebuild my brand. I have to reach out more. I have to do more online advertising, word of mouth advertising, display advertising, just anywhere, or just to rebrand yourself to get all these new members. And it's just like, how many times are you gonna have to do this? Like, how
Yeah.
many more restrictions? How many more lockdowns? How many
Yeah.
more times you have to keep resetting? Like, and especially when it's being said by, you know, doctors and all these, I guess I would say scientists, where it's like, the better your health is, the better chance you have.
Yeah.
So it's okay, eat well, work out, move your blood around, move your body around, do your thing. Okay, that's what a gym does.
Yeah.
Mental health, good for your physical health. Well,
Yeah.
what's the here?
Well, I mean that I think it's safe to say common sense was lost with a lot of the a lot of that kind of stuff. But I think that also came from the fact that a lot of politicians in general, they don't work out. It's simple as that. They don't exercise. They don't treat themselves in that same manner as like me, you, or some of our clients do. So they quite don't understand. And I mean, I just did a podcast with Krusaji from Pound for Pound here, and we were
Okay.
we were talking about how mixed martial arts gyms, CrossFit gyms, gyms that do classes in general, they provide that sense of community that you were just talking about. Where like it's not always about working out and lifting weights and punching shit and getting ready for fights. It's about like sometimes I just fucking show up to the gym, roll to a couple rounds and we shoot the shit and we have fun and we just talk shit for like 20, 30 minutes after while we're stretching, and that's like therapy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. It's your mental health and your physical health. It's even if you're not like you said, busting your ass or working for a fight. It's creating these bonds with new people, and you get to just enjoy everyone's well being because there's no politics there.
Yeah,
It's you,
exactly.
me. We talk about our families, our pets. Oh, this new bar, this new restaurant. Oh, we should go try it. All right, let's go. Oh, you can eat
Yeah.
sushi. Let's go. Like you know
Taco
what I
Bell.
mean?
I remember my last meal with you guys at fucking in Windsor before I moved back here. You guys took me to Taco Bell.
Yeah,
Yeah,
talk about where it's
yeah,
at, man.
yeah. So your last fight, after the layoff, tough fight, right? Tough opponent. How did you feel going into that, and how did you feel coming out with? Obviously, you got the results you wanted. How did you feel, physically, mentally after the layoff, and the UFC and the transition from the UFC going into that one?
Um, Honestly, like I felt like the best I possibly have ever felt, like ever.
Amazing.
Like
That's
my mentality, my strength, my overall athleticism, just like even my overall shape, just from you know doing sport specific things with strength conditioning, doing all these things with Reno, doing all these things with other teammates, cross training to all these other gyms, and just working with all these great athletes. Um, I felt, yeah, I felt the best I've ever felt, and obviously I wanted to highlight real. Everybody does,
yeah,
but I got the decision. Even for the full 25 minutes, I still had, I would say, 90% of my strength. Like I didn't expect to just randomly pick up Dufour and just slam him in the last like 10 seconds and then
yeah.
just try to smash him out. But it just happened, and I was like, man, I feel
Oh.
good. Like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, and I mean that was how hard was it to get a fight um for yourself at that time? Because I know like it's not easy right now for any professional to get a fight. So how difficult was it to get it set up and kind of get back going after the layoff?
um, it was tricky. That's why we're like still working on the visa because the States, it's like they got a show every week, sometimes twice a week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'm going to drop this amount of money because this is an investment for future purposes.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting on it, which is okay. I understand just because of the whole COVID thing and, everything going on, and it's a process.
Yeah.
For Canada, it just, whatever opportunity was there, you had to go and take, because you don't know, like, if you're going to be open and free or if you're going to be restricted. So it's like, oh,
exactly.
we're going to go and we're going to take it. Like, this is
Yeah.
it. Enjoy yourself after the job is done, and then, stay ready. That way you don't have to get ready.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I'm being told now too, because we're getting ready to get my ass back in there, and it's like, ideally, I would love after a long layoff and a surgery to, like, hey, here's 12 weeks, here's the fucking date, get yourself ready. But my coach is like, dude, it's not gonna work out like that. We're gonna set a timeline where we want to get you in there and look for shit, but we got to stay ready. You got to keep your weight low. You got to keep eating right, and whatever pops up, we're gonna have to, smartly take it. Obviously, right? Not just
Yeah,
fucking.
everything's got to be calculated because it is a business at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. You
Knowing
can't
you,
just.
it would only take you about 8 to 10 weeks, and you're going to be a shark anyway. So
Yeah, I know.
I know.
My 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 biggest issue, and I don't know if it was the same in Windsor. My biggest issue was getting the grappling work in, because it's very easy during restrictions and all that kind of stuff. Like, if you have a bag, you can fucking hit the bag and work on your striking. You can get pads, but for grappling, wrestling, those kind of things, you need a room. You know what I mean? You need
Yeah,
a room. You need mats. You
high
need
level people.
high level guys. You need coaching. You can't, like, it's I can easily get a bunch of guys together and roll. It's not a fucking problem. But
Yeah.
um preparing for an actual opponent is not just getting together and rolling. So I found it just very difficult to get that aspect of mixed martial arts trained during the last years. Do you find that it was the same for you as well?
Um. See, it's crazy because my last fight camp, until restrictions were like open, I only had 2 sparring sessions.
Jeez.
So I only got to spar twice. Yeah.
Wow.
So 2 different gyms, got to spar, do some MMA work. But for like grappling and all that, because we have like Tecumseh Jiu-Jitsu, the hybrid, and MTC. So all the guys of the small, like, high level guys,
Get
we'd
together.
all gather wherever, different location, whatever location, and we would just work. We would drill. We would do situational stuff. So it'd be like a hard hour, 2 hours, and then with different people, different things, work technique, and then we would just go about our day. And then, all right, let's go for a run or anything. Go. All right, now it's time for pads. Where
Yeah.
it was crazy because I didn't, like I said, I only sparred twice, and it was when restrictions were lifted.
Yeah.
Before that, it was just strictly all like grappling, all rolling.
Yeah. And the and do you find that when you don't spar as much as we're used to, it's kind of a little bit better?
um,
What? Okay, let me clarify what I'm trying to get at, because it's a stupid statement. I just heard it in my head. Um, I know we have to spar. Timing, all that kind of stuff comes from the sparring. Timing, mentality, all that kind of stuff. But I found that, like, when shit is wide open, when there's no restrictions and you can do whatever the fuck you want, my dumb fighter brain wants to spar more than I
every day.
should. Yes, exactly. Whereas when there's a kind of a limit on it, you're able to kind of protect the thing that, this thing up here, the brain,
But keep you smart.
yeah, a little bit more, because it's not as readily available. Do you think that it somehow, in a weird way, it kind of was beneficial, or no?
Um, yes and no, because the hard, like, if you hard spar, let's say like bi-weekly, to get to like that, just to feel that pressure, that pace, I think
Yeah,
that's good. I think a lot of like technical sparring between anywhere from like 60 to 80%, I think that's perfect.
yeah,
Where you just,
I agree.
move and flow, and then put it all together. And then do, your positional, your wall work, your all that other stuff.
Yeah,
Um, Other than that, I think, like I said, maybe sparring a couple times a month at most, like real sparring,
yeah,
like real sparring is like, that's it. Because like I said, like I only sparred twice and I felt great. Like my sharpness and like my fight IQ and just being able to see the shots and just being able to be like, oh, I can slip and I can duck these.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a takedown. Like, oh my God, like you're not like, I guess like numbed to the point where you're like, oh, okay, these things are here. I'm just gonna do something and then go for it. You're reacting and going. You're reacting and going.
Yeah, you're actually analyzing a situation instead of just like brutally using your skill set to just like get through it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a difficult balance to find for most athletes, I think, in any sport, right? Because you have these athletic gifts, athletic talents to kind of let you get away with shit. Like, you know what I mean? There's certain positions where I know like my hips are good enough. I'm like I can fuck around here and get away with a lot of bad shit. But then, in a real situation, in a real fight, it can also get you severely hurt.
It really hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
against a really good opponent, and like especially for you, you're competing with high level guys, UFC world class level fighters. Now you got a big one coming up in a few weeks, um,
Yeah.
against a fellow Canadian. Now I don't ask this question because I think when media asks that question, it's stupid. Like, what's your game plan? Like, what the fuck off? I'm not gonna tell you my game plan. Yeah, here's word for word what I'm planning to do with my coaches. No, but
Yeah.
like, how are you feeling about this fight and this specific opponent? I know it's a fellow Canadian ex UFC fighter. Um, you know, Shane looks like he's hungry. He's ready to go. He's been getting himself back in there. So how are you feeling about this one coming up?
I feel good. Like ever since the Dufour fight, I'm still like doing my things. I'm still strength conditioning. I'm still, drilling and trying to master those basics. I feel excellent athletically, cardio wise, strength wise, fight IQ, all that stuff. I feel
Yeah.
great. Like, I know you don't, like I said, like you said, you don't ask that question, but it's like, man, at the end of the day, like the game plan goes out of the water and you just fight.
Yeah.
Fight
I
and you
know.
stick to your guns.
Yeah. And
So,
I mean, so where's this fight? Where's this fight? This one's in the U.S., right?
this one's in Edmonton.
Okay, so it's in Canada, so it's not too bad of a travel. So preparation wise, now I know we said we were gonna get back to it. Obviously, after your last fight, we went to a fucking lockdown again, because
Yep.
the government is fucking retarded. So like obviously that's got to had some effect on your preparations. How have you kind of adjusted? I know that this is like the fourth or fifth time we've done this adjustment. So how has it been preparing for this one as opposed to the last couple during the lockdowns?
Uh, I would say like very similar, just, adjust as things go.
Yeah.
And as long as we get the work in and do the right things, whether it's working with an elite wrestler or an elite striker or an elite mixed martial artist, and then, just specific things for pads or specific things in positional stuff to, okay, this is what he's good at. Okay, we're going to nullify that. We're going to neutralize that. All right, this is what you're good at. All right, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And then it's just all those things that create good habits. And it's just, it makes everything like up here feel better. So you're more confident. You're more ready to go. Like you won't have any doubts no matter what. Like, yeah, every fight's uncomfortable. You get to a point where you're like, man, we're stupid for doing this. And then after you're like, this was sick. I'm ready.
Yeah, I only feel that way for like 10 minutes after, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
then you get that dumb question. Someone's like, oh, congratulations. So when's the next one? I'm like, motherfucker, I just got out of there.
Yeah, like let me chill for a bit.
Let me be a human being for a little bit. My face is still fucking hurting. Like I want to be a human being for a couple. Like that's happened to me every time I fight. I'll fight. Someone will be like, hey, great job. When's the next one? I'm like, can I eat first and then
we can finish eating. We'll talk about this after, man.
yeah. But I mean, so you got this big one coming up. Now a win here against such a good guy like Shane really puts you back in the mix to get back in the UFC. Is that the ultimate goal? Obviously, everyone wants to get back in the UFC and compete at that level. Do you feel like this is the one that's going to put you there?
I believe so. Like if somehow either one of us don't get called up beforehand, I feel like whoever wins out of this fight will get that call back. just because it's like we're the top two Canadians at our division who are not in the UFC or Bellator, and we are the elite of the elite in our country right now.
Absolutely,
So this is who will be the next one to come back. So it's basically just a comeback season fight for both of us. In a way.
So I mean, that puts a little bit more pressure on it, but I mean, you've been in those situations before, right? Where, you know, I mean, your UFC debut, for people who don't know, it was on short notice, right? And
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
1 week, right?
Yeah, 7 days or 6 days, a week. But yeah,
A week against a guy in a different weight class, no problem. I'll fucking do it, right?
yeah. Why not? It's just
Um,
everybody.
well,
If anyone gets touched, right? Everybody's brain's the same. We all work the same way. It's just can somebody handle it or not handle it? That's all.
yeah. And now, when you got that call, how did that feel? Like finally getting the call to get to the big leagues.
It's surreal, and it just makes you know and makes you feel like all that hard work, it does pay off. It will always pay off, and no matter what you do in life, whether it's your job or your sport or mixed martial arts, the hard work will always pay off, and it'll get you to where you want to go. And after like accomplishing that and getting that call, it really made me believe that 110% more.
Yeah, like this is your purpose. This is what
Yeah.
you were put here to do. That like it was because I mean I've been following you. And obviously we trained together back in the day for a long time, so I know the punishment that you've put yourself through to get to that point, right? I mean, your first when I was living there, I don't think there was a fight where I didn't see this guy marked up.
Yeah,
This
that's
guy,
maybe because I'm really white and I bruise really easy. But
maybe like my wife is white as shit too, so I'll just like blow a breeze on her and she'll fucking turn red. So maybe that was it.
yeah,
But
maybe.
but like you put in the time, so I mean that call had to feel like the best fucking outcome for like when you look back on it when you're old and gray. And I'm very sure you're gonna get the call again after this fight. But that first call is probably gonna be the icing on the cake in terms of like uh the work that was put in to get to this point, not by just you too, because it's the coaches as well, right?
Yeah,
And
well,
I
their time matters just as much because it's not only it's like yeah, there's us like our us as fighters, but then it's the coach that deals with you, myself, the other seven guys that are fighting, and it's
yeah,
like yeah, they is their goal the same as yours or mine? Maybe, but sometimes their goal is just I just want to turn pro and I want to get a win.
yeah,
To them, that's the UFC. Tough for us, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like they want to get to that level, whether it's UFC or they just want to be a successful pro, have a good record, and just do well, or they just want to get out there and that's their big day. Like that's
yeah.
where us, it's like our goal is the UFC or make a great living and whether it's Bellator, PFL, be the champ of the big leagues. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
varies.
one of the things that I admire you a lot about, and it's something a trait I carry too, is like I'm very loyal when it comes to my coaching and the people around me, right? So like you've been with the same team and the same coaches your entire career. How important is it for you to continuously have Reno and Paul and those guys around you? Because I know like I mean this happens so much. You've seen it when people get to a certain level, they think they're kind of better than the place that they were at, and then they just fucking go and train somewhere else and leave them behind. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like how important for you is it to have your family, the people who brought you there with you throughout the journey?
I think in my personal perspective, I think it's the most important because it's like especially with coaches like Reno and Paul, it's like they want you to go travel to these other gyms, get better,
Yeah,
become the best athlete you can be, and you can still be loyal to us and still represent our banner, you know.
absolutely.
And I feel like as a coach or having a coach or coaches like them, them being in your corner, they'll give you that reassurance. They'll give you that motivation. They know you as much as you know them. You know what I mean? And there's that bond, and you can't like I can't be like, okay, Byron, all these guys. I'm going to Extreme Couture,
Yeah.
and now I'm gonna have Randy and all these other guys be my coach, and I'm gonna make it big with them, and then all of a sudden they get everything. But it's like,
Yeah.
man, they just put all this work into you, developed you, and now they're just reaping the benefits.
What I also feel too is that when you have the same coaching staff, and they have to be good. They can't be like there. Some people make changes, and I agree with them, right? Because maybe
Yeah,
it was
100%.
a toxic environment or something like that. That's a separate story. But when you have coaches who are there throughout your entire career or a good portion of the career, they see you at your best and they see you at your worst. So when shit hits the fan in the cage, they know like maybe you're not fucking trying your hardest. Maybe they know there's something like Kyle doesn't look right now. There's something's off with his mental. So they're able to tap into situations in the gym, or if you're hanging out personally, where they're like, hey, dude, suck the fuck up because you're gonna lose this fight or you're down 2 rounds. Get your mind right, right? Whereas if you don't have the same coaches around, they don't pick up on those cues.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it's that bond. It's all about that bond.
Yeah.
Like you can go train. Like I said, anyone should be able to go train and go wherever, pay your dues wherever, but be loyal to those coaches that helped you grow and develop.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Well,
But
like, and
it's
no, it's not just you. It's not just you. That's what good fucking martial artists do. Like,
yeah,
my jujitsu coach, when I was starting there, I think I was about a purple belt when we had this discussion, and I told him that I'm not getting all the aspects of martial arts that I need here. And it's not a knock on him or his gym. It was just he's more focused, like he's running a business, so he's more focused on the gi and putting on the gi and doing all that kind of stuff. Whereas for me, I'm like, oh, I want to fight, so I need to be doing no gi, I need to be doing wrestling, I need to be doing all these things, but they're not offered. And and that's where the ego aside, good coaches are able to do that. Like you just said, he's like, go train at all those other places, because I know that you're a loyal student and you'll still be back here. And I think that's missing in some aspects of mixed martial arts.
yeah. Well, for me, as like a great example would be if you look at all the greats, look who's been in their corners most of their career, like GSP, Khabib, DC. Even like John Jones. I know that's a different issue, but
Yeah.
even like all those great athletes, they still had their OG coaches because their loyalty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially with like Khabib or even like the American Top Team guys.
Yeah.
They all stay with those guys and they just train, cross train, or they bring people in,
Yeah.
and they just stay with them. They're not hopping to gym to gym to gym to gym, and then sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But it's like,
Well, I'm gonna give you a good example of a former foe where it didn't work out. Kevin Lee, right?
I was just about to say that. Like,
Right?
I was like, wait, this sounds familiar because I,
Yeah.
I just seen that he posted something about he's going to a new place.
Yeah, and so like I'm gonna give him his respect, because I respect him as a fighter. He's a great athlete and a great fighter, and he's done
100%.
a lot of he's competed against some of the best in the fucking world, and he's still doing it. But I think one of the issues where he ran into problems where was when things went wrong, and when I say wrong, a simple loss, he overthought it too much, like it was somebody's
There-
fault. It was somebody's
Yeah,
fault but his own, right? And I think that's where a lot of athletes, not just in mixed martial arts, they fuck this piece up. Like, you lose. Okay, losing is part of sport. You have to accept that. But the loss isn't the coach's fault. 99% of the time, it's something you did in
yeah,
your
or it's somewhere up here
it's
when you
somewhere
were.
up here. And like for an athlete like him, when I watch him fight, it's exactly what you just said. It's up here because um, athletically he's gifted.
He's a specimen.
He's a specimen. Like, guy's got abs on abs on abs. I only get the I, I I get a 4-pack only when I cut weight. The guy wakes up with 7-pack. Like he's got 60 abs. He's fucking
Yeah, he's just
he's an athletic specimen. So I feel like when athletes like him run into issues where they lose, or they have less impressive wins or something like that, they start falling into that mental trap where they're looking for people to blame for an own personal issue. Whereas I think if he had just stuck with, because it's not like he was training at bad places. He was training at what?
with
Fucking
Extreme Couture, I think, in
yeah,
Vegas.
Extreme Couture. He was up at in Montreal. Like these are world class level gyms.
Names, yeah, they're the elite gyms. The
They're
elites of elites go there.
the best of the best of the gyms. You have the best guys in the world traveling to be there. So I don't think it's a matter of lack of coaching at that point. You know what I mean? So like, what would your advice be to athletes like him, um, where they struggle with that part of the game?
Uh, for me, I would say like you need to sit down with like your group, and you need to do some, I guess, communication. Like, okay, where am I shitting the bed? Okay, where do I need to improve? What do I need to do? Do I need to see like a sports psychiatrist just to help my mental game? Do I have to, do these things? What do I reassess? It's like I already, especially when you're at that point, it's like you already have the skill set. You know how to fight.
Yeah.
You know how to spar. You know how to roll. You know how to wrestle. You know how to do all these things. Okay, let's break it down to why are you feeling like this? Is your cardio lacking? Why is it? Is it up here? And you're looking for a way out, or do you need to push harder? Like, what is it? Like, I think it's a big communication thing with him and the coaches that need to be brought to his attention. Maybe hold yourself more accountable. It totally depends. But to me, it's like, all right, I want to talk to my coaches. I want constructive criticism. I don't want, like, if you're gonna like verbally abuse me, at least do it constructively so I can learn.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that I missed, and this is me personally, was when I've had injuries just like you, and my career has been riddled with injuries, like surgery after surgery.
Yeah, knee
And
surgery, Achilles.
knee surgery, pec surgery,
Yeah, I was
fucking
gonna say,
now
like
they
your
kill.
shoulder, your double blade.
Yeah, I tore the pec
Yeah,
in 20
was that 17?
2018 after I fought King of the Cage, and then 2019 I was recovering. Then the fucking pandemic, and then they're like, "Oh, you want to fight?" Because I think that was like in June of 2020. When did this shit start? 2020? Yeah,
It's like March 20 or
yeah, March.
something.
So like in June, they're like, "Yo, September, they're starting fights again. Let's book you." I'm like, "Great, let's go." So I did some yoga. I was all stretched out. Went for a run. Pop, Achilles went. Right. So
Oh,
then,
oh God, I can only imagine. I would have thrown up for sure.
let me tell. I'm gonna tell you the story. So I did yoga at the house because that was in the depths of the first lockdown, so everything was fucking locked, right? So there was we didn't have secret training yet because nobody knew what the fuck was going on. So
Yeah, it's actually like supremely dangerous because we didn't know it was the unknown. But yeah, go on. Sorry.
it's the spooky COVID. Anyway, I did a fucking hour long yoga session online, and so I'm stretched out. I'm ready to go. I'm like, okay. So I hop in the car and I drive to a field like 4 minutes away from my place. Nothing crazy. Stadium. So I got my ladder out, footwork done. I'm doing sprints done. Um, I'm sweating balls. It's fucking June. Like there's no. I'm trying to paint this picture. There's no like deficiency in my muscles. I'm hydrated. I drank like fucking
Yeah,
3
you feel
liter.
good.
Feel fucking great, loose. And I'm on my last sprint. Right, I'm doing 100-meter sprints to finish off. So I was doing 20s. I did 10 of those. Then I did 10 40s, 60s, and then after 60s I'll do a few hundreds, and then I'm fucking going home. I'm done. I'm on my second last 100-meter sprint, and I plant, pop, fall on the floor. Have my headphones in, so I'm fucking jamming to beats. So I thought somebody I knew came from behind and was just like, "Hey, let me push Ashton and get his attention because he's not paying attention." So I'm looking around the field, like empty stadium. I'm looking around the field, like, and I'm like, "Oh fuck, no, that was a pop." And I'm just like, I try standing up. I'm like, "Oh shit, I can't stand up." Like,
Oh,
I'm like, fuck. So I call my wife because I have my cell phone in my pocket because I obviously have my headphones. I call my wife. I'm like, something just happened. She's like, what the fuck do you mean something just happened? You just went to the field to run. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'm
like the
plan.
most thing just happened.
Yeah,
You will not believe it.
I planted and I fell on the floor, babe. And I'm like, I'm in so much pain. And she's like, well, are you going to be able to come home? I'm like, well, I'm going to try because I drove, right? I drove the car there because I didn't want to jog. I didn't want to jog to the field because I was like, I'll do all the work in the field. Like, this is like the 4-minute drive will be my mental preparation. So I fucking got my ass home and I laid on the floor and I'm like, I think I just tore something in my leg. And my wife's like, what? Ashton, how the fuck did you do this? And I'm like, I don't know. I planted. It's one of those injuries where like you're like, "Ugh, I can't even explain it, right?"
Yeah,
And
dang.
I got lucky that my knee surgeon, I have him on Instagram, so I sent him a message and I'm like, dude, this happened. So he got me in 2 days later to see me, and he's like, dude, your fucking Achilles is torn. And I'm like, no. And I was
Oh,
like, when can you do the surgery? At first I was like, how bad is this thing gonna be? Like, and he's like, well, you can't flex your calf. Like, your calf is not connected to your
to
ankle
your,
right now. So
oh,
so he's like, he goes and checks the schedule. He's like, I can do it in a month. I'm like, fuck. And we're in lockdown, right? So I'm like, a month with this? I don't know. Like, I'm like, can you do it any sooner? So he's like, he leaves the room. He's like, I have a colleague. He can do it tomorrow for you. And I'm like,
no
okay.
way. That's hype.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. But then I was like, I have a few questions though. I'm like, how good is this guy? Like, I don't know if I want just anybody, but it turned out I got very fortunate that the tendon snapped right in the middle. So it was a stitch and
Also,
go job. It wasn't like if it had torn off the bone, I would have had to probably find a better surgeon to kind of do it. But it was a stitch and go job. But it was a miserable experience because you're in lockdown and they won't allow my wife to come to the hospital with me. So I think I was at a friend's house last night and he was asking me about this. So um I have the surgery. I think I'm first of all, let me say this. I asked the nurses there. This is during the first time. I'm like, how many surgeries do you guys normally have on a daily basis? Because there's nobody there, so I can talk to these nurses. Like this, they're not
yeah,
busy,
you're just like,
and
okay, whatever.
they're like 40 to 50 on a day. And I'm like, how many are you doing right now? And they're like 8. I'm like, are you fucking serious? 8, 8 a day with how many people that live in Ontario? And you guys have went from 50 surgeries a day to 8. You know how many people are suffering right now? And we've done these lockdowns how many times? So that's like a firsthand experience for people who are listening. Like, that's the bullshit that's going on with the the situation that's going on in the world right now. Like, like you can't. There's no fathom in my brain to go from 50 operations a day, whether it be for
Yeah, you went down.
something as simple as an Achilles to fucking 8. There's people dying of cancer, and you're telling me you go from 50 to 8. Fuck you guys. That's bullshit. But anyway, that's besides the point. So I'm in the hospital and I'm by myself, right? And like, I'm sure you've been in the hospital before, like before surgery, you're fucking freaking out because you don't know what is gonna happen. They're gonna put you under, like, and then you just wake up, right? So
Yeah, I had no idea. I was kind of like excited, but I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but this is kind of cool.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'm
Like
just like
you're like,
strapped.
for me, it's like every time I have a surgery, which is a lot, I'm like, oh, at least I get a break. At least I have an
Yeah,
excuse
right.
to chill for fucking a week. But I woke up and, my leg's in this fucking cast and nobody's there. And normally your wife or somebody's there. And I have bad reaction to anesthetic. Normally I just throw up. I just throw up
Ooh,
every time I get anesthetic. So I wake up and I'm feeling sick as shit. Nobody's there. I'm ringing the thing. Nobody's coming. Finally, somebody comes. He's like, "Oh yeah, okay, you're awake. All right, we'll call your ride." I'm like, "Okay, how'd the surgery go?" Maybe I'd like to know about that first. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's good. The doctor's she's busy doing another thing, so he'll call your wife later." I'm like, "What the fuck is
why
this
not now?
bullshit? Why not now?" And then I'm like, well, what about, can I get my stuff, my crutches, all that kind of stuff? Sure, he comes, hands, throws me the bag. I'm like, dude, I just had surgery. Like, You really think I can fucking put my pants on right away? Like, and so I get the crutches and I get out of bed and I'm like, I can't walk. Like, I can't do this right now. I'm too high on the anesthetic. There's no
Yeah,
way.
you're like,
Yeah, I was gonna fall down, right? And so I'm like, I can't do this. He's like, I'll get you a wheelchair. Gets me a wheelchair, pulls it up, walks away. I'm like, how the fuck do you expect me to get in this wheelchair, bro?
help me, bro.
I might be this fighter dude who's like tough and shit, but I'm not fucking invincible. And
Yeah,
so
human. Just, I'm really adapted to pain. Like,
yeah,
I can do this, but I can't do this right
so
now.
he gets me in the fucking chair, and then they leave again, and I'm like, well, how am I gonna get to my ride? Like, it was like I've done a few surgeries. It was quite possibly the worst experience I've had in a hospital, and I had different nurses, but I feel like because of all the shit with the pandemic, it really has Canadian healthcare has really shit the bed, right? From this, and like I've had, there's a girl in my church who she recently got the vaccine and she had a negative side effect where she was bleeding from her lady parts really badly, right? Profusely.
Yeah,
And she's from India, so this is her first time at a Canadian hospital, and she's telling me this story, and I'm just getting angry, right? Because I'm just like, what the fuck are we doing here? So she had a negative effect, which happens, right? We're not talking about that shit right now. But she had a negative effect. She goes to emergency. They make her sit there for 6 hours before a doctor even sees her, and they're like, "Oh yeah, there's nothing we can do for you. Here's some antibiotics. Send her home." She's still bleeding. So she was bleeding she was having her bleeding out of her lady parts for I think 3 days and no help. And she told me when I saw her last week, she told me that if she was in India, there's no way that they would have left her untreated. They would have done within 5 minutes of getting into that hospital, they would have done everything they could have to help her. And she's like, as a foreigner, she was ashamed of. She was excited to move here, and like now
yeah.
she's
Like
like,
everybody. Yeah,
she's like ashamed that that's the healthcare system here, and I'm not. That's a separate topic and a thing, but I mean, it's just as athletes too, we rely on the healthcare system quite a bit because we fuck ourselves up, right?
I think
But
we need their help to help us get our license because ours is still like high level of get every single thing possible.
yeah, and so I mean, I, it's hard for me to verbalize how disappointed I am and how the healthcare system has kind of let everything down. And I mean, going back to fighting, like fighting in Ontario is probably the one of the harder fucking licenses to do. Um,
Yep.
and like, I mean, to shed some light on it, I did all the medicals last year because I was planning to fight in November. It didn't happen because I was having issues with my calf. So I did all the medicals in October, and I'm like, okay, I have them all done. Let me apply for the license because
Yeah.
next year I'll be able to. No, you can't use those medicals. What the fuck, man? So like we go through all this effort to get all these tests done, all this, and you can't use those medicals because the calendar year stops in December, so you have to redo all the shit. And I'm like
Yeah.
if you were to walk into Michigan, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, you got them all done. Great, let's fucking go. You're in to go." But like,
Yeah.
I don't. Do you think it's just because Ontario is so fresh with MMA that it's so difficult, or like?
I think they're trying to do it in like I understand the perspective on their side to make it like safer, just make sure because there is some incidences like somewhere wherever else in the world. I don't want to name the places, but where guys will go fight, but they already have a concussion, and all of a sudden these guys are dying.
Yeah.
So it's like that's on the commission, and that's on the medical teams because it's like, why'd you clear this guy? He shouldn't have been cleared. So I could totally see it from their view, but I believe, why isn't it should be because you said October, so October 2020, so it should be good till October 2021.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or it's like, okay, if if this is already good, so why can't I go from December to December and then renew my stuff the following like January after that December?
Yeah,
But for me, I think the only thing that should be redone all the time would be blood work, just because anything can happen.
I agree.
And
Uh,
maybe like an EEG
a CT scan of the
or
head.
like a CT or MRI, depending how the fights went. Like
Yeah,
if it's like a Michael Chandler Justin Gaethje type of fight, it's
yeah,
like, okay, maybe we should check out your brain a little bit, or like
yeah.
if you get TKO'd or knocked out or
Oh,
something.
absolutely, I agree with that 100%. Right, but
But
like
other
I'm
than that,
talking about just I haven't fought in 2 years. I have my medicals in order. That I passed them all with flying colors. Oh, I'm not. You're not fighting in this calendar year, so you have to redo them. I'm like, not only is that a waste of time and money and
well,
taxpayer money as well,
for,
right?
yeah, it's like I don't. So why can't my physician use that same paper that you guys gave me? Just change the date because it says that it's good for 60 to 90 days,
Yeah,
except for blood work. So why can't I just hand in all that other stuff and just give you new blood work?
yeah. Now, does
You know,
does the UFC operate the same way in turn like Ontario, or are they a little bit?
I know like see the way like always done it is like if you get licensed in Ontario, you can get licensed basically almost anywhere.
Yeah, I know that for sure.
For the UFC, whatever tests they have, they will basically just give you an appointment and be like, okay, you need to go here, go get this certain CAT scan that shows like something else inside the brain, like the blood vessels type of
Yeah,
scan. And they don't accept ophthalmologists for some reason, but they'll take an ophthalmologist
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
the same test, which I'm like, it's kind of weird because they're both dilated eye exams, but I think because the American way is you got to have an ophthalmologist because I don't know if it's just because
I
the
think
name different or like the recognition or I don't know. It's the same
uh,
test.
my my best guess, and I don't want anyone to like quote me on this, is like it would be like an ophthalmologist is like a chiropractor. Like, like you can put the doctor in front of it, but you're not a doctor. Whereas an ophthalmologist is a doctor of eyes. I could be
Yeah,
fucking wrong, but I believe that is the reasoning behind it. But at the same time, like you said, it's the same test. So why the fuck does it matter who signs off on it? You know what I mean?
yeah. They're both taking their little drops that burn your eyes for a couple seconds, and then
Uh,
that super bright light where I try to keep my eyes open. I'm like, you're gonna have to just pry your fingers in there because I can't hold it open anymore.
yeah. Now, so we got this. You got this big fight coming up. Because I'll wrap this shit up because I know you got to go to bed soon and got to train and get ready for the week. But
Training, go back to training.
go back train. But you got this big fight coming up. Now I personally know you're gonna win. That's just me. I know that I have confidence in my boy.
Biased opinion.
But how do you picture this thing going down? Like, how is this? How do you want to make your statement for hey UFC bitch? Let's get me back in there.
I just want to dominate wherever it goes. Dominate, show that I am superior in every form and aspect, whether it's we're against the cage, we're grappling, striking, wrestling. It doesn't matter. I just want to be. I want to be that dominant, complete mixed martial artist. I want to show, like I said, wherever it goes, I will do tons of damage wherever that fight goes. If it stays standing, sweet. If it goes on the
Yeah.
ground, well, that's fine because either I'm going to get back up and I'm going to take you down, or I'm going to submit you, or I'm going to cut you open, or anything like that. Ideally, for me, if I can get a highlight reel knockout, that'd be sick. We
Yeah,
all want, right?
we all want that, but
But if it's not a TKO KO, then obviously I would love a submission. But
yeah,
if he doesn't give me that, and he weathers the storm and he's tough and it goes 3 rounds, I'm cool with that too. I know I'm trained and I'm conditioned well enough to go through all that. Like I just went through with 25 minutes with who I think is another top elite in Canada with Michael Dufour. And
yeah.
I think and that kid's still young. Like he's going to be dangerous in a couple years.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but from photographs, he looks fucking chiseled as shit.
Which one?
Well, like when I saw that, like, how big was he when he got in the cage? Like, he looked a lot bigger than from weigh-ins.
Oh, Dufour? Michael
Yeah,
Dufour?
yeah,
Um, so they said he's like 5'8", and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense because when I got measured, it says I was like one day I'd be like, depending if I'm wearing whatever shoes, but it'd be like 5'10" or just under 5'10",
Yeah.
depending what I'm wearing. And I'm like, dude, you ain't no 5'8". He's the same height. He's
Yeah.
got like John Jones reach. Like
Yeah.
I think he got like a 76-inch or inch reach or something
Oh,
like.
that's massive reach. Big
It was
arm.
dumb. I'm like, holy smokes! It's like, okay, I got decent reach for my size, but it's like, man, you got another arm on your arm, bro.
He's got an arm growing off his arm. This
Like,
motherfucking.
like, man, this guy's like Luffy, and he can just stretch his arm out. Like, holy smokes!
And like, I mean, it's happened to me where you get into a cage with like you see an opponent on film or whatever, and then like for example, my last guy, when we watched film on him, he was fighting at heavyweight and he was fucking fat and kind of sloppy, and we're like, okay, yeah, let's go. Then I get to the weigh-ins. I'm looking for the guy. I'm like, where the fuck is this motherfucker? And then I see this guy fucking chiseled to the tits. And I'm like, that can't be the same motherfucker. And I'm like, ah, shit.
He changed his life.
You just, like, why'd you start dieting when you had to fight me? Fuck. But, like, how many times have you gotten in the cage and you looked across, you seen a fucking guy just tanked, and you're like, ah, shit, what the fuck am I doing? And then
That's kind of how I felt against Nordine, because at weigh-ins, I'm like, oh, okay, he ain't that big, and then I see him rehydrate, and I'm like, damn, this guy's huge.
yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm like, I gotta try and just like run this guy down and just make sure he doesn't blast me. And that's all he did, was just found his range, just used his IQ, and just started blasting my legs.
yeah. But and that happens a lot of time. There's like one of my teammates, I think you know Urgus Segeta, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I know him.
um,
Yeah,
he fought at a BTC and he fought this guy from the States, and it might have been on the same card that you fought Scott. Yeah, I think it was. So he fought this big
I
giant
know. Yeah, I know.
Hulk motherfucking looking black guy, right? And me and my wife looks in this shit, like we look at it, I'm like, I believe in Urgus, but that motherfucker's big.
They're like,
Right?
this is some Goliath shit. Like,
Yeah, and then
I know exactly what you're talking about.
the funny thing was is like how big that guy was, and then Urgus, like, it's funny when that happens in mixed martial arts, when it's like, because that's how amazing the sport is where like Urgus is not a muscular guy. He
Just
carries
looks like an
average looking fucking dude. Got
those are
some,
the dangerous ones.
yeah, and then he just the fight starts and he picks this fucking Goliath up over his head and starts slamming it. I'm like, oh shit, okay. I mean, that happens quite a bit, and yeah, I mean, there's always memes where it's like they have the big muscular fighter and then fucking Daniel Cormier next to them. Who do you think is better?
Yeah, it's like DC all the way, the
Yeah,
Olympian. If you don't know.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, we've been doing over an hour, so I just wanted
Oh my,
to. Yeah, no, I don't
that
care. I
flew
don't care.
by. That
It
flew by.
flew by. Good conversation, but let everybody know where the fight is. I know it's on UFC Fight Pass. It's for Unified MMA. What's the date on it again?
It'll be March 4th on a Friday, I'm pretty sure.
March 4th, Friday. UFC Fight Pass, Edmonton, Alberta. Hopefully, there's no fucking bullshit going on, and that fight takes place. We're praying. We're praying because we want Kyle to get back to the big show and bring a
Back to the
belt,
top.
bring a belt home to the fucking Canada.
Yeah.
But yeah, so good luck on that fight, man. I know you're gonna do really, really well. I have 100% faith in you, and it was an absolute pleasure getting to catch up with you and do this, man. We'll have
Yeah.
to do it. We'll have to do it again once you're back in the show after this fight.
Yeah, for sure, my man. Thank you. I appreciate this. This
No
is fun.
problem. Yeah, man. All right, so that's been another episode. Kyle Prepolec, how can people reach you if they want to even come and train, do some stuff with you? How can they reach you?
Just find my Instagram, Facebook. I don't really use Twitter. Sometimes depends. Usually fight nights I'm on it, but other than that, yeah, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Just message, DM, any of that.
And if you're in the fucking Windsor area, train with the guy. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to work with them. So thank you a lot for doing this, man. I appreciate it. And
Yeah, thank you.
good luck in a couple weeks. I know you're gonna smash it.
Thank you. I'll do my best as always, brother.
All right, man. Thank you. Have a great night, brother.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Please do me a favor. Click the like below. Share on YouTube. Share on Instagram. Share on Facebook. Spread the word so I can keep creating more content for you and keep providing you with a great podcast experience. Peace out.